This video is to demonstrate how to complete the first batch survey for Section 319 in National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant funds for the High Rock Lake project. The purpose of this survey is to submit information to the Division of Soil and Water Conservation that will be used for ranking of agriculture cost share program projects at the watershed scale and for just general grant project administration needs. So I have linked in the watershed ranking form that the division will use to rank projects to this survey. So you can access that here. Again, that is what the division will use to assign points to specific projects. If you want to pre-rank your projects just to see how well it will be in competing based on the ranking criteria, you can print this form or you can download it. These buttons, reset form, will be available, as well as a number of other buttons and fields in here to help with project ranking will be available once you download. An important thing to note in this particular survey is that there is not a save and return feature available. However, Survey 123 allows for answers in the survey to be saved locally to your browser as you progress through the survey. This means that you can partially fill out the survey, leave the page where you filled out the survey, and come back to it again in the same browser. And your answers should still be populated within the form. I will demonstrate this feature really quickly here. So let's say I start filling out this form. I put in the fact that this is Alexander County. My district contact name is Sue Perkins. Email is sue@gmail.com. Cooperator name is John Smith. Then I realize, oh, I need to collect a lot more information before I fill out the survey. So I'm not ready to go to that. And let's say that I, navigate out of this web page to another one. And then, oh, I want to go back to the survey. We can see when we go back that everything that we had just filled in has been saved locally. If you start filling in a survey form and you navigate away and you actually want to reset your form with everything that you had previously filled in, once you start filling out a survey, you'll see that there is a little reset option button that becomes available. So if we hit that, you can say, yep, we're going to go ahead and reset. And what you had previously filled out in the survey has been deleted. While survey drafts are able to be saved kind of locally in your browser this way, there is not really a way to edit the survey submission after it's been fully submitted. So make sure that everything is accurate and complete before you end up hitting that submit button down at the bottom of the screen and send it into the state. Other important information at the start of the survey that I want to point out for your awareness is take a look at these deadlines. So the deadline to submit projects for batch ranking are listed on the screen here. You also note that we are restricting eligible practices to the ones listed in the survey for this first batch round. This is because we're anticipating to have implementation targets for livestock exclusion systems, and we want to fund BMPs that are eligible for NFWF funds. We may expand eligible practices in future batches. Take note of this information here, which is listing everything you need to collect before proceeding. It provides information of what the survey will be collecting, and you can get some of that information by looking at the watershed form, but some of this is like grant project administration stuff that we'll need to collect. So just take a note of these listed items and make sure that all your ducks are in a row before you start completing your survey. You do have the ability to locally save answers in the draft form, but it's always a good recommendation to go ahead and get everything that you need to do completed for a survey before you really start getting into the weeds here of filling it out. And so just a couple of notes. We will be asking for resource concern photos. These are essentially field photos of before conditions for projects. Both grants require this sort of documentation be performed, which is why we're asking for those. We will ask you to calculate a quantity of the BMPs needed to address concerns. That's essentially like, are you looking for 1,000 feet of livestock exclusion fencing and 2 watering troughs with this project? For livestock exclusion and buffer projects, we ask that you discuss with the cooperator, and if they're willing to go above and beyond standard minimums, then you should select appropriately to the question in the survey that asks about that. Prepare a conservation map of all the ACSP BMPs to be contracted in this project and upload that. That's just to help the division really to give you the points awarded that we need to in the watershed ranking form. We did develop 2 GIS tools to help with conservation map preparation, should you choose to use them, and that's discussed and demoed in a different video. Again, ask to calculate a funding amount and specify the funding amount request that you are asking for grant funds for. Calculate a conservation effect. Again, we need this conservation effect for a couple of the parameters that are within the watershed ranking form the division will use to rank projects at the watershed level. We ask that you complete your local district ranking form and upload that to the survey. And also, if you wish to identify other projects that are within the same Hook 12 subwatershed that you're aware of, those are agricultural conservation projects that might be supported with outside grant funds or additional ACSP dollars or NRCS. You can specify those there in the survey as well. And again, that information is being collected for watershed ranking for these projects. If you run into issues or have questions about how to complete the survey, please contact me, Allie Dinwiddie. You can call, email, or schedule a remote meeting with me. I have a remote meeting appointment scheduling link in my email signature. I might not be able to provide support most of the week before the survey is due, so please reach out sooner rather than later when you are completing this item for the first batch of funding. All right, so let's go ahead and run through an example survey submission here. So I'm going to specify the district, say it's Iredale. District contact name, we'll just choose Sue Perkins again since that's relatively easy. Cooperator name, John Smith. This next question asks how many ACSP BMPs are intended to be contracted as part of this project. So really for this question, we're looking for distinct BMPs. So if you have like 4 watering troughs that you plan to contract in here and a livestock exclusion fence, just specify 2. If you have multiple fields with cover crops that expand into different HUC 12 watershed areas, you might want to specify more than one for that practice, more than just one cover crop practice, just to make sure that things ultimately in the survey get captured, and I'll demonstrate that later on. But for the purposes of this example, we're going to specify 2, because we are planning to do a livestock exclusion and watering troughs. All right, so you'll notice as soon as I hit a number within this field, it pops up all these additional fields, and this is going to be asking for practice-specific information for the ACSP BMPs that are intended to be contracted. So the first thing to do is to specify the ACSP BMP to be contracted under this project. So you select what's being contracted, the BMP to be contracted, then you place a location point for this livestock exclusion practice. This location point should automatically be where you are filling out the survey. This point is in Raleigh because that's where I am. If there's multiple location points for this practice within the same HUC 12 watershed, you can just choose one location for where this practice would be implemented. If there's multiple location points, so say if you're doing a cover crop practice on multiple fields that span various HUC 12 watersheds within the county, all as part of the same contract, then you might want to specify additional BMPs in here just to make sure that a location point within each HUC 12 watershed is able to be captured in this survey. That's just kind of a limitation of Survey 123. I wish we didn't have to do that, but that is just one of the things with using this resource to capture geospatial information. All right, so for this example project, I do have a location or address that I want to search for. So again, you can type in a coordinate point, or you can type in an address in this field and zoom to where you want to go. And then, you can choose a different coordinate point if you wish to, but you just have to make sure that a point is specified in the survey for this particular practice. All right. So for this practice, you have to select a distance of the project to an impaired water segment. If you are familiar with the GIS resources that were developed and which I've demoed in a separate tutorial video, you'll know that this layer, the pink and the purple here, the buffer, indicates that this is an impaired water segment. So if we do livestock exclusion fencing along this paddock, which is what is anticipated for this project, we will have an impact within the 100-foot buffer zone for an impaired water segment. So for this question, answer this question, it is helpful to refer to the GIS resources that were created just to verify proximity. I have linked in the map to the one of the viewer tools available should you wish to use that resource to determine an answer to this question. I think it's probably the easiest to do. So if we were to go over here, search by that coordinate location, then we can refer to our map and say, okay, yeah, this buffer area here is likely to have an impact within the impaired water here. All right, so we go back to our survey. We select, yes, it will have an impact, and the project is within less than 100 feet from or upstream of an impaired water segment. The next question is to select the distance of the project to the surface water type. So again, in the ranking form, you get different points for impact to waters of different classification types. So you can go again to the mapping tool and just look at the layers and see what this stream segment is classified as. You can do that in a number of ways. You can toggle off this impaired watersheds and you can see, okay, yeah, according to my legend here, this water body type falls into the WS3 or WS4 category. You can also select this segment, pull it up, and you can see, okay, this surface water classification type, this particular water segment that my project will impact is a water supply tier 4 water. Okay, so we'll go back and we can say, yeah, it's within that buffer zone for a water supply tier 3 or tier 4 water, so we'll go ahead and choose that designation here. The next question is asking you to upload one or more pictures of resource concerns to be addressed by the above BMP. Again, these are before project pictures that both grant funders require. So if we were to go and just upload a couple of images, I'll just go ahead and click on that so you can see this is one of the example photos actually included in the survey here. I did provide examples below so you can see kind of what I'm asking for with this question. But you can see this definitely demonstrates a resource concern with livestock access to the stream. If you want to add another file, you can do that. So in this photo, again, livestock access to a pond. All right, the next question asks for the total quantity unit to be implemented. So if we go to our example map that we plan to use, I just happen to know with this example map that we have about 2,500 linear feet of livestock exclusion fencing here. So when I enter in a total unit quantity, I'm just going to enter in 2,500. For the funding amount, please refer to the average cost list in your region for estimating a value there for the request for this practice. So if I wanted to do 3-strand permanent electric fencing, $4.68, we can calculate that 2,500 times 4.68. That's about 11,700. Again, for livestock exclusion and riparian buffer practices, you will see another question about whether the cooperator has indicated an interest to exceed the 10-foot setback requirement set standard for fencing or the 20-foot setback for buffer. And if they have, you should select yes, no, if this is not applicable to your situation. So this will pop up for watering trough questions too. If you've already indicated, this in a livestock exclusion practice that you've filled this information out for, you can select not applicable. But let's say for this example, we hit yes. If you hit yes to this question, again, in the watershed ranking form, folks that are looking to exceed what's set in standard have the potential to get additional points in the watershed ranking form for this grant funding. All right, enter the expected acres affected with implementation. Again, this is a conservation effect that CS2 requires that we require in BMP policy for this particular practice. So I happen to know with this project that little livestock exclusion for that last paddock is about 5 acres. So I'm going to input 5. The animal type is beef. There's about 20 cattle that will be on that paddock. Again, use ACSP BMP policy when you're calculating and reporting these conservation effect quantities. All right, so that is all the information that we had to fill out for livestock exclusion fence. We had specified that we plan to contract 2 different distinct ACSP BMPs within the same HUC 12 watershed. The second one is watering troughs. So in order for us to add in water trough information, we have to go over to this 2 icon. So you got to scroll back up after you finish all of that stuff and go to this 2. And you'll see that it is a blank area and you've got additional information that you got to fill out. So we're going to go ahead and select water trough. We're going to go back to our coordinate location. If we want to just keep that point the same, then we can. If you want to actually orient one of the points to where you think the water trough will go, one of the water troughs, then I would recommend you do that. So you can go ahead and select that. Then you can select the distance of the project to the impaired water segment. Again, this particular project, we've already kind of filled this out for livestock exclusion fencing. And for this practice, we'll say, yeah, we'll go ahead and specify that it was the same here. So less than 100 feet from an impaired stream segment and within a 300-foot area from the surface water classification of WS4. Resource concerns. Again, if you want to, add in photos here demonstrating why watering troughs are needed in this system, just simply, cows in the creek is a good enough photo. You might drop 1 photo into this BMP, 1 photo into the livestock exclusion. But then we get into the nitty-gritty here of how many water troughs are needed with this project. So in this case, 2. Specify the funding amount needed. Refer to your average cost list. For tank, I'm just going to go ahead and say this is $1,280.75 for these 2 tanks, $2,561.5. And again, if the cooperator is choosing to exceed the 10-foot setback for livestock exclusion fencing or riparian buffer, you can indicate that on this question. Again, expected acres affected with implementation 5, animal type, beef cattle, and then 20. I specify 20. So yeah, you can toggle between those 2 different BMPs, make sure that you capture everything that you need to between those. And then you'll notice that there are some additional questions here. You will be asked to upload a conservation plan map for the project that includes all of the ACSP BMPs to be contracted. I have a plan map that I have prepared for this project, just so you can see it. This is what it looks like. That was developed using the GIS resources that were created to assist districts with these grant funds and planning for these grant funds. You can also upload your completed local district ranking form for the project. And then you need to specify the project priority for your district. So some districts indicate which points that get scored locally indicate high priority, some districts don't. So you do need to specify a priority for this project for your district. And this is to help give you points at the watershed ranking level for your project. If it's a high priority district project, please indicate that, and that project should be eligible for 20 points, I believe, in the ranking form if it is a high priority project. All right, last but not least, also in the watershed ranking form that the division will use to rank projects, you can potentially get additional funds if this practice supported with grant funds is adjoining or close to other agricultural conservation projects. So this might be stream restoration work that's funded by outside grants. It might be additional agriculture cost share program work that you're planning to put in with your state allocation. It might be through NRCS programs. And so if you do have one of those, you can hit yes. And then similarly to what was done above, you have to enter in the number of adjoining projects to this one. So if I hit 1, it will go to my coordinate point just to orient myself. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And then I know within this HUC 12 watershed, which is seen here, that upstream, like over here, we have another conservation project in this field that is going to be completed through NRCS or through ACSP allocation dollars or through outside grant dollars that the district has. And so I will specify for this other project, this is, let's say, just cover crop project outside grant funds. So that's all you have to specify for other project locations. If you have multiple, like if we indicated there's 2 projects, then you would have to go and do a similar thing for the other project, like we did for the ACSP BMPs. But we only have 1, so we'll keep that as is. If you want to share any other information, comments about this project with the division, you have the space to do so here. And if everything looks good, you can hit submit. Well, let's just delete Sue Perkins' name. You'll notice, like, if you click out of something that should be filled in, that a little error message will be uploaded there. And if I try to submit the survey, it'll tell me what I need to do to fix it in order to be able to submit successfully. So let's say I'm going to delete this file and try and hit submit again. You can see that this little toolbar at the top will try and help you to identify where your survey error is. Sometimes it's a little bit confusing. If your error is in number 2 and your view is on number 1, you're like, I'm not seeing any errors in my survey. Why is that the case? Just always double check that everything is filled in both of those little tabs. So we'll go ahead and specify a image to upload again. And with that, we have completed the survey and we're going to be ready to hit submit. So once you hit submit, you should come to this screen that says your response was submitted successfully. If you want to submit another survey response, you can hit the link here and complete that. And with that, we have concluded the tutorial video for filling out the survey to successfully request grant funds for Section 319 and NFWF grant funds for local agriculture cost share program projects. Again, please reach out to me, Allie Dinwiddie. My email's on, you can click this and email me. You can also call me or schedule an online meeting with me if you're having trouble using this resource. But it should be pretty straightforward and relatively painless to complete information in here for successful requesting of grant funds.